Good evening and welcome to Resisting Until Return. This is part of the first ever Return Week facilitated by the Palestinian Return Center. Return Week seeks to mobilize Palestinians and our allies around the world to call for and support the Palestinian right of return. أهلا وسهلا بكم في أسبوع العودة الذي يستضيفه مركز العودة الفلسطيني في London. My name is Farah Kutene and I'm the Public Relations Coordinator at the Palestinian Return Center and the founder of Key 48, a voluntary collective mobilizing for the Palestinian right of return. And I'll also be the chair for today's panel. So Return Week falls on the 72nd anniversary of UN Resolution 194, which outlines the right of return's legality. Tomorrow marks the 72nd anniversary of the UN Declaration of Human Rights, containing Article 13, which categorically states that everyone has the right to leave any country, including their own, and to return to their own country. And just 2 weeks ago was the 46th anniversary of UN Resolution 3236, which reaffirms the right of return and recognizes the right of return for Palestinian refugees as an inalienable right. So before introducing our speakers, I just want to bring to your attention a campaign by the Palestinian Return Center. This campaign is called the My Return Campaign. So the My Return Campaign is a popular voluntary initiative launched by the London-based Palestinian Return Center in cooperation with international pro-Palestine partners. The campaign was first launched in Jordan in cooperation with the Palestine Committee in the Jordanian Parliament. The campaign culminates in a petition that calls for and reaffirms the Palestinian right of return. The campaign seeks to turn such an inalienable right into an international cause. This campaign seeks to garner the largest possible number of signatures on a petition confirming Palestinian refugees' devotion to their right of return. The petition clearly states that it rejects the US deal of the century and any other initiative undermining Palestinians' internationally guaranteed rights. Israel and the United States have never ceased to undermine such an inalienable Palestinian right by denying the refugee status of displaced Palestinians inside and outside occupied Palestine. The US President Donald Trump's recognition of occupied Jerusalem as Israel's capital, the campaign waged by Israel and the United States against UNRWA, and the US suspension of its funding to Palestinian refugees, and the increasing calls to resettle the refugees in destinations other than Palestine are all tactics which, seemingly divergent, aim for the same goal, which is undermining the Palestinian right of return. The right of return will never be negotiated away or used as a bargaining chip in any possible peace negotiations with Israel. The campaign is based on individual signatures on the My Return campaign through its official website, which is www.myreturn.net. The petition has already garnered over 550,000 signatures, so please go sign now. So that's www.myreturn.net. It's also at the bottom of your screens currently. You can be proactive in supporting Palestinian human rights, especially the right of return, by signing, or if you have the means, then by donating to one of the most important organizations on the ground supporting Palestinian refugees, UNRWA. Anything you can donate will go a long way. To donate, simply search donate.unrwa.org. And I believe this year is the first year in UNRWA's history where they actually have run out of their yearly budget before the year has ended. So anything you can donate will go a long way. Now, before introducing our speakers, I just want to remind everyone watching, if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube and you have a question you would like our speakers to answer, then please write your question in the comment section and the speakers will answer them in the Q&A at the end. So to introduce our speakers, our first speaker is Chef Rubio. Chef Rubio is an independent and unconventional chef, but also a photographer, film director, and producer. He is a former rugby player with much popularity in Italy and considered a true media phenomenon and icon thanks to the TV show Unti e Bizunti.
Yeah.
Aired in over 80 countries by the Discovery Network. Rubio is dedicated to preserving and promoting traditional and regional cuisine in order to fight taste standardization and globalization of agricultural products. Rubio is also a longtime supporter and activist of the Palestinian cause against Israeli occupation and Israeli apartheid. He recently traveled to Gaza with an Italian non-governmental organization where he led a cooking class for the inmates of a local prison. I just also want to briefly introduce Priscilla. She will be interpreting from Italian to English for Chef Rubio. He will speak in Italian and then she will translate later on. So over to you.
Okay. Should I speak now?
Yeah.
You go with the question, or I explain? Well,
You can start with the questions in your speech if you would like.
Sorry?
We can start with the questions in your speech.
Okay, but I asked, say the answer straight away, or you asked me the question?
Oh no, it's just okay. I'll do the 3 questions, no problem. So the 3 questions. The first question is.
If it's just because they don't know the question, if I go straight with the answer, they don't know what you're asking me. But if you want, I go straight with the answer.
Yeah, we'll start with the question. So the first question was regarding your recent visit to Gaza, to tell us more about your recent visit to Gaza, and to also tell us more about your decision to remove your social media accounts because of Facebook's censorship of Palestinian.
Yeah, like okay, the question. This is a new question, but yeah, I go with the answer we prepared because this one is okay. Io lotto per i diritti della gente palestinese, del popolo palestinese, della Palestina, perché a nessuno dovrebbe essere impedito di fare ritorno a casa propria, a nessuno dovrebbe essere impedito di viaggiare, e uno Stato, specialmente uno illegale come quello di Israele, non dovrebbe impedire al popolo nativo di entrare e uscire da casa propria. Quindi mi batto per questo, mi batto perché non vengano considerati terroristi tutti i palestinesi solo perché i sionisti hanno deciso questo, e a nessuno dovrebbe essere impedito di viaggiare, di girare, e i diritti dei palestinesi sono i diritti nostri, quindi mi batto per questo motivo. E si viola anche un solo diritto dei palestinesi, è come se lo si violasse a uno di noi. Quindi il diritto al ritorno dei palestinesi dovrebbe indignare tutti quanti, non solo gli attivisti, non solo le persone che sono presenti oggi in questa conferenza. Quindi le violazioni totali dei diritti umani perpetrati da Israele nei 72 anni di vita sono state innumerevoli, e l'apartheid evidente che c'è purtroppo non lascia altro che spazio alla resistenza e all'attivismo. Prego Priscilla di tradurre, se ne vado in inglese.
Yeah, so because no one should be denied return to their home country, and no one should be banned from traveling, because a state, and an illegal state like Israel, cannot deny other people to enter or leave their house only because it claims that Palestinians are all terrorists. And here the right question should be, why the right of return doesn't mobilize everyone? Why is not everyone outraged? And I think it's not even about Palestine or Israel anymore here. We are talking about a constant and total violation of human rights that started 72 years ago with the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, continued with the Nakba, and continues today with the apartheid. And there has been too many violations from Israel, and we have to stop.
Yeah, that's pretty much this what I trying to say about the refugees waiting to return. So that's why it's important for me. Do you have any other question, Farah?
Yeah, the other question was more about your decision to remove your social media accounts on Facebook.
Yeah.
What triggered this decision, and explain more about your symbolic protest to remove all your Facebook-owned social media?
Ok, ho deciso di rimuovere i miei account social perché sono i social che sono sotto il controllo sionista, e se non sono direttamente sotto il controllo sionista subiscono fortissime pressioni dalle lobby ebraiche e sioniste, quindi piuttosto che rimanere con i miei 800.000 follower su Instagram e 1 milione su Facebook, ho deciso di dare un segnale forte nell'assenza, quindi ho detto rinuncio a tutto questo perché la causa in cui credo è molto importante, molto più importante dei followers, molto più importante di qualsiasi tipo di messaggio che finora ho comunicato e divulgato sui social, quindi è stata una presa di posizione forte che spero possa essere servita come messaggio per le persone che mi seguono e che erano venute a conoscenza grazie a me e grazie alle persone che mi circondano della causa palestinese, quindi questo è stato il motivo per cui sono uscito dai social.
So I've decided to cancel my social media accounts because I've seen, because all of them are under the control of Zionists, and even if they're not directly under the control of Zionists, there is a huge pressure. And despite the fact that I had 1 million followers on Facebook, I wanted to renounce to this because for me, the cause and the Palestinian cause, it's much more important than my followers. And so by doing that, I hope I've demonstrated something, and I wanted to leave a sign to the people who follow me on social media, who used to follow me on social media.
Well, actually I have Telegram and Twitter, but yeah, it's not the same. Like many people were following me on Instagram and Facebook, and it was quite interesting how many people get in contact with the Palestinian cause because of me and because of the people that is following me, because we share a lot of information on Instagram and Facebook. But lately, like 1 year ago, they shadow banned me, and I denounced it to Instagram and Facebook leader, and they ignored me many times, and so that's why I decided.
Thank you for explaining more about that. I think we've all faced the issue quite often on Facebook, on Instagram, and on the Facebook own social media sites, where they often censor our voices and censor the pro-Palestinian voices calling for Palestinian human rights. So thank you for telling us more about that. So I found the questions that were initially supposed to be asked. So the next question was, how would you encourage more people to mobilize to Palestine?
Okay, thank you. First of all, we're studying Arabic, so Fursa Saida Farah, and so I'll go with the answer. Lo faccio ogni giorno da 7 anni, lo mostro sui social, per strada, in privato, cercando di dimostrare che non bisogna avere paura di rinunciare alle proprie certezze, alle sicurezze, per poter garantire poi ad altre persone, in questo caso i palestinesi, di avere una vita libera, perché se non si rinuncia a qualcosa di importante come una carriera, allora penso che non valga la pena lottare per chi invece vede negarsi ogni giorno il diritto persino all'esistenza, ad esistere. Quindi la galera, le minacce, le denunce o gli omicidi mirati del Mossad o chi per loro, insomma, non dovrebbero spaventare chi lotta per la libertà. Bisogna soprattutto non aver paura e ridicolizzare i sionisti, affrontandoli con i contenuti, con la storia. Cercano di fare del negazionismo costante, e noi, chi per noi deve applicarsi per fare del proprio meglio, mostrando i fatti. Israele è viltà, terrorismo, illegalità. I sionisti sono praticamente una mafia fatta di ignoranza. Dall'altra parte abbiamo la Palestina, che è un popolo incredibile, è formato da un popolo incredibile, fatto di cultura, amore, storia, resistenza, arte, poesia, bellezza. Insomma, non è molto difficile scegliere da che parte stare, quindi questo è quello che cerco di condividere ogni giorno con le persone che mi seguono su Telegram e Twitter o per strada.
So I've been doing it every day, every single day for 7 years, on social media, on the street, or even in my private life, showing that guaranteeing certainties and rights to other people does not mean that we have to give up ours, and that careers based on money, on fame and success are useless if other people are denied the right to exist. And at the end of the day, prison or death are nothing compared to freedom. So this is the reason why we must study and we must confront Zionists through history and through historical truths. And because Israel is cowardice, it's terrorism, and it's illegality. And Zionists are like a mafia, and they are ignorance. Instead, Palestine and Palestinians are culture, are love, are heart, and poetry. And so it's not difficult to choose which side to support.
Yeah, so I want to say hi to all the Zionists that they are spying us and say that you are really weak and Palestinian people is really beautiful comparing to you. Yeah, so let's go with the next question.
Thank you. The next question is, why is preserving and protecting Palestinian culture and art so important to you, and is it a means of your own resistance?
Ok. È molto importante, fondamentale proteggere e preservare la cultura palestinese, non solo per il popolo palestinese, ma anche per il mondo in generale, perché diffondere cultura vuol dire resistere, impedire ai sionisti di fare negazionismo e di continuare a essere gli unici veri antisemiti, perché il popolo palestinese è semita, ma ci dimentichiamo sempre di dirlo, e di depredare tutto ciò che rappresenta l'identità del popolo palestinese è fare resistenza, contrastare le bugie diffuse del sionismo via social con notizie, fonti, è fare resistenza. Fare come fanno le donne palestinesi e continuare a fare figli per portare avanti le generazioni e fare resistenza, rimanere a casa e trasmettere il proprio passato, la propria conoscenza ai figli nonostante i padri o i fratelli maggiori siano incarcerati in detenzione amministrativa, e fare resistenza. Insomma, ci sono tanti modi di fare resistenza e portare avanti tutto questo è fondamentale perché si possa vivere in un mondo giusto. Se non ci dovesse essere più la Palestina e il popolo palestinese su questo pianeta, non credo che avrebbe poi così tanto senso vivere, perché i palestinesi siamo noi e quello che sta succedendo ai palestinesi potrebbe essere capitato e potrebbe succedere a qualsiasi altro popolo, e quindi è una cosa vergognosa che va combattuta con cultura, resistenza e boicottaggio.
So preserving and protecting Palestinian culture is indispensable, not only for Palestinians, but for the entire world. And protecting and spreading culture is resistance. Saying the truth is resistance. And preventing the Zionists, who are the true and only anti-Semites, to erase Palestinian identity and culture is resistance. And hindering the lies spread on social media with historical truths is resistance. Giving birth and having children regardless of the genocide in act is resistance. And narrating stories and tragedies is resistance. And raising families who are devastated by administrative detention, like Palestinian women are doing, is resistance. So without the Palestinians, the world would be a useless place to live. And by doing that, so by resisting, it's indispensable for a fair world. And we should remember that.
Okay. Just to touch more on the final question that you answered, just kind of a final comment on that question. it's, I find, of paramount importance to make sure that we are, at any opportunity, promoting Palestinian culture, indulging in Palestinian culture, especially at a time. We find this is a very common behavior of settler colonial states. The states that are in absence of culture, they will often use capitalism, consumerism to fill that absence of culture, but also at the same time, they'll also appropriate and steal the indigenous culture on the ground, which is what we see in the case of Israel. So Israel is often appropriating Palestinian culture, claiming it as their own culture. Also, we can see this especially even simple Palestinian kufiyya, the Palestinian scarf. Israel has appropriated the scarf. They've made a blue and white version. We can see the cultural appropriation in several different aspects of Israel's identity. So I just wanted to say thank you, Chef Rubio. If anybody who is watching online has any questions you would like to ask Chef Rubio, please leave them in the comments below and we will answer them in the Q&A at the end. Thank you, Chef Rubio.
شكرا and تشرفنا.
Thank you, shukran. Next speaker is Malak Matar. So Malak is an artist from Gaza who paints powerful expressionist faces and figures and semi-abstract designs. She first started painting at age 13 during the 51-day Israeli military assault on Gaza in 2014. Forced to stay inside for her own safety, she felt a compelling need to release all of her fear, anxiety, and sheer terror. She started painting with art supplies from her school, basic watercolor on paper. This opened up a world of self-expression for her, and she has now produced over 300 paintings and exhibited her art all around the world. Please welcome Malak. Over to you, Malak.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much for this introduction, and thank you for having me. First of all, I'd like to briefly talk about my art journey and how I started my art in the Gaza Strip, and how much that we as artists do have responsibility to resist with our voices and to resist with our talents. First of all, my name is Malak Matar. I am very soon to be 21 years old, currently in Istanbul, and I was born and raised in the Gaza Strip. Living in the Gaza was a very unusual experience in many aspects. I first had the experience of war at the age of 8. I had to be in the house as a lockdown, and the whole experience of war, it really shapes your perspective in the world in a very negative way, and it makes you feel that you are in danger. So having this traumatizing experience at the age of 8 got really worse in 2012 when I had the second war that was even more traumatizing because of its length. And also the third war in 2014, it was the breakthrough. 52 days of complete lockdown and terror without access to electricity. And within this time, my neighborhood was heavily attacked, and death was really close, and I felt the feelings that I had were really overwhelming to handle. Then I had to take a decision to make anything to just distract myself and to express myself, because in the time of war, you don't really have the luxury to speak about what you feel. So I got into my room and I started looking for something, and I opened the box that had watercolor I got as a gift from my school, and I started doing sketches. And at this time, I felt really, I felt like I'm expressing myself, and I feel like I'm digesting what is happening around me in a better sense. When the war ended and I survived with my family, I decided to improve my artwork more and to improve the medium I'm using. As a young artist, I was more into painting self portraits, and then being present in social media and reading more about the international news about Gaza. I just felt how misleading and how manipulative and also biased the news could be, then I decided that I have to take a responsibility to tell people how it is to be under occupation and to be under also siege. So I painted about the lack of electricity. I painted about how it is to be in a very big, an open prison like Gaza, and also about the right of return. My grandparents were really big part of this inspiration to paint about the right of return. I was always very overwhelmed with the stories they told me about how they were displaced from their village and how they were promised to return a few months after they were expelled and kicked out. So I realized that I will never be able to see my village, and I will never be able to visit the home of my grandparents, but I could at least tell people that we are here and we are still demanding the right of return, as it's the right of all refugees and all people who were forced to leave their homes. I'm really very aware of how art is really important through the messages I receive from me traveling around the world. I've been to over 70 different exhibitions and countries lately. And I do believe that telling our stories as Palestinians and becoming the original storytellers is very important. And it comes from the realization that our existence as Palestinian and just standing in public and saying that I am Palestinian is itself a resistance, because we are living in a time where countries and people are denying our existence. So this is briefly about my art and my social justice activism. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Malak. Our next, actually, before I want to move on, I just want to say, I've met you, Malak, before. Maybe, well, how long ago was it?
I think 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Less than that, yeah.
Yeah, maybe a year and a half, possibly.
Yeah.
Just before I met you, I exhibited your art in London in the
Exactly.
art exhibition called Art Under Siege, We All Live in Gaza. And I remember just like even pre-COVID, because obviously now we're talking via webcam, it's become kind of the new normal. But even at that time, we had to Skype you into the exhibition because obviously Gaza is under blockade and no one can leave, no one can enter. And I think that's just an important point to reflect on. But anyway, thank you, Malak. If you have any questions you would like to ask Malak, please leave them in the comments below, and she will answer them at the end. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Masoon. Our next speaker is Masoon Zayed. She is an actress, comedian, writer, and disability advocate. She's a graduate of and guest comedian in residence at Arizona State University. Masoon is the co-founder and co-executive producer of the New York Arab American Comedy Festival and the Muslim Funny Fest. She has most recently appeared on CNN's New Day, 60 Minutes, and ABC News. Masoon had the most viewed TED Talk of 2014 and was named one of 100 women of 2015 by the BBC. She is the author of the best-selling memoir, Find Another Dream, and is the creator of the Book of Bayan, a children's graphic novel series. Over to you, Masoon.
Hi, everybody. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. I'm so excited to be included in Return Week. First of all, for those of you who can't see me, I look like the Lost Kardashian. I have cinnamon skin, long black hair. I'm wearing age-inappropriate sparkly lipstick. I'm sitting in front of a bookshelf full of books that I will never read, and also an evil eye to protect me, because we know how jelly people can get. And finally, above my head, I have the picture of the bucket of boys, the 30 boys from Gaza. So since the beginning of the pandemic, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a stand-up comedian that can't stand up. And since the beginning of the pandemic, I've been stuck in my basement, performing from my basement. And I've done everything from Verizon to CNN, and I always make sure that the boys are in my shot, so that every single place that I go, their memory and their murder is there for people to remember or to learn about if they don't know about it. Now, the reason that I gave that description is because blind people who are participating right now, or certain people who are neurodivergent and cannot handle imagery, need to be included in all of our conversations. Return Week, Palestinian solidarity, it's all about inclusion, and inclusion must include disability. So I make sure to start everything that I do with an audio description. I hope you all will do that too. Before I jump into like the serious Palestine stuff, I want to introduce myself, and I want to warn you all, I'm a comedian. I'm about to tell jokes. We're going to laugh, even though there's a deadly plague and our country is, suffering greatly under oppression. We're going to tell jokes. So here we go. My name is Masoon Zayed. And for those of you who don't know me, in the Oppression Olympics, I would win a gold medal. I'm Palestinian, I'm Muslim, I'm a woman of color, I'm disabled, I'm divorced, and I live in Donald Trump's America. If you don't feel better about yourself, maybe you should. I want to tell you a little bit about my origin story. I love telling the story of how my parents met. It's such a beautiful story. I think it should be like a Lifetime romantic movie. They're first cousins. My dad swears that the first time he saw my mother, he knew she was the one. And I was like, Daddy, how'd you know she was the one? And he said, your grandfather, he told me. And then my mom has a nickname for my dad, and she calls him her husband. And my mom looks like Julia Roberts, and my dad looks like Saddam Hussein. And when they had me, I was the youngest of 4 girls. Now, they didn't think that God would be so kind as to grant them another girl. So they had only picked a name for a boy. It's a very unique name. You've probably never heard it. If you're knocked up and would like to steal it, please have a go for it. They were going to name me Muhammad. So when they saw I was a girl, they decided to name me Muhammadiyah, which is the female version of the name Muhammad. Now, Muhammad is a great name. The greatest boxer of all time was named Muhammad. The prophet was Muhammad. But being named Muhammadiyah is like being named Smurfette. Luckily, the doctors told my parents I was going to drop dead. And they didn't want to waste such a great name on an angel baby. So instead, they named me Masoon. Now, fun fact. All Arabic names have meanings. And when your parents don't know the meaning of your name, they lie. If you're a boy, they tell you it means lion, habibi, roar, roar, and they're lying. If you're a girl, they tell you it's a beautiful, beautiful flower, but only in the heaven. That's why you never see it. So I grew up thinking that my name, Masoon, meant beautiful heavenly flower, only to meet an Iraqi linguist when I was 27 years old who told me that Masoon actually means lemur. My parents named their brown, fuzzy, shaky baby monkey, and I survived, alhamdulillah. Now, I'm very, very sorry. I don't speak Arabic. أنا بحكي فلاحي. For those of you who don't know what just happened, I'm about to speak in Arabic and tell a joke. And if you don't understand Arabic and you're Palestinian, عيب عليك, learn it. And if you're not Palestinian, that's okay. As our friend Chef Rubio said, there's a lot of spies in here, and I'm sure they'd be happy to translate. So أنا ما بحكيش عربي، أنا بحكي فلاحي. أنا تعلمت أحكي من ستاتي، ولازم أحكي لكم يا أهل فلسطين قديش أنا مشتاق لأم سبات ستي. أم سبات ستي كانوا فيهم معنى. كانت ستي تطلع علي وتقول لي دمه يركعك، ولا سطح يسطحك، ولا اللي حبيته أكثر إشي حسكة وعظمة سمكة تلزق في زورك. طب يا ستي افهمنا عن عظمة سمكة، بس شو هو الحسكة؟ مسبات اليوم ما لهنش معنى. الناس بيضلوا يكسكسوا، بس أيام العز كانوا يعرفوا يسبوا. we talk a lot about culture. And part of that culture is making sure that we know our stories. And my story began with the fact that every summer when my friends in New Jersey would go to the Jersey Shore, my parents would leave us to send them to live in a war, because they thought that if we didn't go back every year, we would forget our roots and grow up to be Britney Spears. So I spent every summer in Palestine with my grandmothers. And my grandmother taught me a lot about disability, because when I first got to Palestine, I was really into playing something called the disability card. For those of you who don't know, the disability card is a card that disabled people play when they want to get out of doing something they don't want to do. So I was 5 years old and I was in Palestine, and my grandmother woke us all up and she gave us chores. And I looked at her and I said, Sitti, أنا بقدرش أنظف. أنا معاق. Grandma, I can't clean. I'm disabled. And my grandmother put a towel under my butt and had me scoot back and forth to shine the marble floors in the house in our village. And I actually think that that was like a life-changing lesson. And another life-changing lesson was the fact that I grew up around a lot of people who were not disabled. I was the only disabled person in my school. But when I went to Palestine, unfortunately, due to the fact that we have been living under a violent genocide for 70 years now, disability is very prevalent. So I was able to be very accepted in that society. And I dedicated a lot of my time and my energy to making sure that students in Palestine with disabilities have access to a free and accessible education. And we are failing them at that. And we need to do better. And this is where I remind everyone that Masoon Zayed speaks for herself and does not represent Return Week. We cannot do better if we do not get rid of the failed Palestinian leadership. Our leadership has allowed our oppressor to thrive. They have allowed them to gobble up anything that's left of the original Palestinian lands. Every single day is a Nakba. And until we, the people, non-violently rise up and say, enough is enough, this leadership has failed. We need new leadership that matches up with the new leadership worldwide. Yes, no American president is ever going to save Palestine. They're not going to do it, and we need to stop waiting for our white saviors. But the conversation, including in America, about Palestine has changed. It is no longer a default that Palestinians are the bad guys. People understand that the Palestinian issue is a human rights issue, that this is an issue of supremacy, that the only reason Palestinians do not have freedom or equal rights is due to the fact that they weren't born the correct faith. That is the definition of supremacy. But that is not the conversation that is being had worldwide. So when we talk about Senerja, when we talk about returning, those of us who are blessed and lucky like me, whose villages still exist and can still return if Israel decides to let us in, right? It's a roll of the dice every single time, must always return. And we must document the stories of our country, not just the past, but the present. I have a web series on YouTube called Advice You Don't Want to Hear. And I give people advice they don't want to hear, like I'm doing right now. And what I do is I shoot in front of places like the best pizza in Palestine in Deir Dawan, at Rukab, in a refugee camp, in Betir, in front of olive trees. Because too often the images that we see of Palestine are always of death and demolition. We must remind people we exist, we are not going anywhere, and we will return. My name is Masoon Zayed. Thank you so much for including me. I'm super excited to stick around for the Q&A. I've spent summers and months going back and forth to Palestine. This is my largest absence. I always spend Christmas Eve in Palestine because Jesus was born in Palestine, so why not go there for his birthday? And this is my first year not spending Christmas in Palestine since I was 7 because I'm stuck in disease-ridden, non-vaccine, get in America. But next year in Jerusalem, inshallah.
Thank you, Masoon. And yes, next year in Jerusalem, inshallah.
Can someone take a screenshot of me because I'm wearing my fancy thobe dress?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll send that to you. Okay. Thank you, Masoon. Our next speaker. Actually, sorry. We're having a short 5-minute break. So we'll have a 5-minute break, and then afterwards we'll be joined by Marwan, MC Gaza, and also we'll be joined by Isra. So you have 5 minutes. So please go sign the My Return campaign petition, which is www.myreturn.net, and see you in 5 minutes' time.
Yıllar geçse de, ömrüm bitse de, beni öldürse de, döneceğim, bekle Filistin. لو مرت أعوام، لو صلبت أحلام، لو كسرت أقلام، حتما ستعود فلسطين. العودة حقي وقراري، وكذاك طريق الأحرار، في جيبي مفتاح الدار، سأعود لأرض فلسطين. العودة حقي وقراري، وكذاك طريق الأحرار، في جيبي مفتاح الدار، سأعود لأرض فلسطين. Seni unutup gitmem, sensiz hiç olmam. Sevdim, seveceğim, döneceğim, bekle Filistin. لو طال الأسر، لو محيا الفجر، لو نفد الصبر، حتما ستعود فلسطين. العودة حقي وقراري، وكذاك طريق الأحرار، في جيبي مفتاح الدار، سأعود لأرض فلسطين. العودة حقي وقراري، وكذاك طريق الأحرار، في جيبي مفتاح الدار، سأعود لأرض فلسطين. العودة حقي وقراري، وكذاك طريق الأحرار، في جيبي مفتاح الدار، سأعود لأرض فلسطين. العودة حقي وقراري، وكذاك طريق الأحرار، في جيبي مفتاح الدار، سأعود لأرض فلسطين.
If the petition letter being sent to the United Nations in order to solidify the right of return for the Palestinian refugees represents you, this is your chance to add your signature and make your voice heard. Enter the website at www.myreturn.net. Enter your details, your name, email, and the town of origin from which you or your family were exiled. Fill in the relevant fields to secure your data, then sign in the box. You have only completed half of the steps. To fully complete the form, you must log on to your email and open the email from the campaign. If you cannot find the email, check your spam folder. Click on Verify to activate your signature. Congratulations! Your participation in the petition has now been confirmed. Return. My right. My decision.
Welcome back, everybody. Just want to jump straight into the second half of Resisting Until Return. Our next speaker is Marwan Abdul Hamid. He is a young Palestinian activist, social entrepreneur, content creator, and rapper whose work revolves around the economic empowerment of disenfranchised communities through connecting diasporas to entrepreneurs back home, most notably known for his groundbreaking song, Jerusalem Freestyle. Before hearing from Marwan, we're just going to listen to Jerusalem Freestyle.
Dreaming we could make a living. We may call it home, but it isn't. Living a life full of hate. Don't you talk about forgive. Quicksand on the beach. You got children playing by the sea. Language different, so they gone now. Always wishing it was me. Late nights in the trauma, eating away at my soul. Feeling guilty that I'm not there. Mama, I wanna go home. 4 Giottos on a drop top. We ain't got nowhere to go. IDs at the checkpoints, just so we know we below. Come take a trip to Jerusalem. You ain't see the people, they moving them. Reason they hate me, cause I'm always true with them. This shit got nothing to do with them. Used to have so many friends, now I'm losing them. I don't really give a fuck, cause I'm through with them. I met some real ones that gave me the tools to success, and you better believe it, I'm using them. Damn, yeah. This is all part of the plan. Gotta get rich and get back to the people who never gave up on staying in the land, yeah. Money is nothing to me, I just reinvest in my community, They bombing our cities and then they be saying it's all for security, Ce qui se passe autour, je m'en balèque, j'entends rien. Seul dans mon monde, mais c'est là que je me sens bien. Un seul endroit où je veux être, c'est Gaza. Je l'ai vu de loin, elle m'a dit reviens. Girl, I love a little crazy. Pick you up in a Mercedes. I wanna take you to Jericho. Parents worry about it daily. Come take a trip to my city. The bullets be flying all over the place, but you're safe just as long as you with me. Already know that somebody gon' kill me. Don't listen to media telling you stories, just take it directly from me. More than a century since we've been free. Just come to my city and see for yourself how they living. 2020, they ain't with the vision. We gon' bring them together, and I don't really give a fuck if if you Muslim or Christian, no time for division. My people in Gaza, Yafa and Janine. The people of Nablus, Haifa, Wal Khalil. My people in Yemen, Syria and Lebanon. We got your back cause we know how it feels. Là c'est qu'un rêve mais je sais que je reviendrai. Je pense qu'en ma chair ça m'a rien rapporté. Je sais que je suis capable, faut juste me pousser. Là pour le coup c'est maintenant ou jamais. Fuck these corrupt politicians who steal from their people and don't represent them. I said it, we fight for our rights and it's anti-Semitic. You think after being oppressed they would get it, yeah.
Fuck it, yeah.
Thank you, Marwan. I love that song. I literally have it on loop all the time. So now I just want to hand over to Marwan. The floor is yours.
Hello, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity and, you know, just being invited on here with everyone on this panel is just amazing for me. And I know that there's a lot of representation from Gaza. So shout out to everyone from Gaza because that's where I was raised. I was actually born in Jerusalem, raised in Gaza. And I'll tell you guys a little bit about myself because, you know, I'm relatively unknown, I would say. So I was born in Jerusalem, raised in Gaza until 2007, and I had to leave in 2007, came to Jordan. Ethnically speaking, I am only 1/4 Palestinian. So my mother is half French, half Algerian, and my father is half Palestinian, half Serbian. But, you know, being born there and staying close with Jordan just shaped my whole entire life. And I mean, you know, you came and you asked me to talk here, and I just want to say that, you know, the music for me is a means to an end, and it's not the end. I think, you know, I used to not take it seriously. A lot of people started pushing me to take it seriously, and now I kind of realize the impact that I can have through music and the people that I can reach. You know, we're talking about the humanization of Palestinians that you don't really see in mainstream media. And, you know, now I study in the US and you see that people don't really know what Palestine is or the struggle that we go through. And my work, so I'm 20, but my work revolves really around empowering Palestinians, especially through entrepreneurship. And the way that we do that is by engaging the diaspora. So, you know, diaspora Palestinians that are outside of Palestine, as most of them are. We have, I think every single one of us, we have this thing that I call survivor's guilt, where, you know, we've made it out. I was fortunate enough to leave Gaza in 2007. It's a double-edged sword. I wouldn't say fortunate, but, like, you know, it's very dangerous to live there. And I've always thought, you know, growing up, what can I do to help? You know, these Instagram stories, okay, cool. You have Instagram stories, like, there's more to it, you know, and what we created is something called Grow Home, which is a platform that connects diasporas to entrepreneurs back home. So I'm talking about empowerment. I think that entrepreneurship is one of the most empowering tools that you can teach someone, because instead of just giving someone a fish, you're actually, you know, you're giving them a fishing rod and you're teaching them how to fish. So you're helping them fend for themselves. And us as diasporas, we have intellectual and financial resources that some people are not afforded. And we really need to start mobilizing that power and pushing it all back into Palestine. I'll always say that, you know, when we need to stop thinking of Palestine. I don't think of Palestine and Palestine as a geographical entity. I think of it as a global nation of 11 million people. And when you start to think about it like that, and you start to realize the power that we have, you know, because we are victims and there is, you know, this system of oppression that's been dealt to us, but also we can change things. And, you know, different versions of activism here and there. The important thing that I will say is that it's very important to empower each other as Palestinians and to listen to our stories, because a lot of the times I see that Palestinians like to put each other down for no reason. And it just hurts me, you know, because Palestinians were so diverse and beautiful, and, you know, Masoon was talking about inclusion, and I am 100% on board with that. We are so diverse, and our culture is rooted in this diversity. So, you know, for me, in terms of music, you know, as I said before, as a means to an end, I've never really taken it seriously, but now I'm really starting to realize the impact that it can have, coupled with this startup of mine, you know, that's connecting diasporas to entrepreneurs back home, which, you know, I would love for people to come and ask me questions about at the end, etc., etc. And the music, I want to be the Palestinian Drake. Like, I want to be, you know, Drake. It's funny. Drake has brought in $616 million into Toronto, and it's just insane, just across music, you know. And so I want to be that for Gaza. Like, I want to be the, and with MC Gaza as well. You know, I want to put Palestine on the map, because for a lot of people, especially that are not within these circles, instead of alienating them, I really try to bring people in and to show them what we're going through, and to humanize Palestinians, because a lot of the times Palestinians are not afforded context. We're not afforded, you know, the fact that we're human beings. And that's kind of what I try to do across the music. People seem to like it, so I'm going to keep going. And entrepreneurship as well is one of the things that I really, really focus on in my work. So yeah, that's kind of all I have. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Marwan. It's also very interesting. I didn't know that you're only a quarter Palestinian hybrid. I'm a hybrid too. So it's great that we can be inclusive to everyone of all backgrounds, whether they're mixed Palestinian, because obviously now we're coming into a time where an increasingly globalized world. And yes, thank you for your segment.
Sorry, I think I cut off. Hello?
Hello? No, it's all right. It's all right. We got your speech. We got your speech. We got all of it. Don't worry. So the next speaker, just a quick reminder before introducing the next speaker. If you do have any questions, for any of the speakers, please do leave them in the comment section of Facebook and on YouTube. So our next speaker is MC Gaza. He's also known as Ibrahim Ghanem. MC Gaza is a musician, rapper. He has been creating rap music since 2005 and has produced over 130 songs. He is a Palestinian refugee, born in Algeria, raised in a Palestinian refugee camp in Lebanon, and is now living his life between Algeria, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, Japan, Malaysia, Indonesia, and now in Turkey. So before hearing from MC Gaza, here is a piece of his music that he created live at the Great March of Return in Gaza.
من البداء احتلني وعدا بفكر الدم ممكن يروح سودا واقف بمكان اللي من زمان رسم لي خط وهمي بشوفوش امان كان طاير حمام بينادي بعودا فتخبى وعمل لي من غاز وضباب يوم لرد ندات لبينا النداء مهمة القناصة بتصيد الشباب بتحدى النيران دخان الكوشوك انا طالق عنان مشونة ومشوك انا عائد لأرضي انا خالع الشوك لو مش عارفين ايش بيدك ما كانوش حشوف سلمي وقفت صدر ما خفت مهما تعنفت مهما تكلفت نديت ما وقفت عفت وقرفت ما شفتش الوانه وما كنتش ملتفت ايش استفزهم ايش اللي هزهم كيف ما شافوش بعيون رعب صورة بنفسهم عالقاء كأسهم تعود عشوفتنا من بين سحب شافونا طالعين الاف والاف كيف لسه صامدين بعد سنين عجاف فكر ضابعين اصاب البريء لا تحزن شهيد ورد وقطاف فكر هيك بنهي الوجود لو حمل حدود ما نعود حنعود لو بنى جدران لو حط جنود واليوم موعود لو بعد عقود بتحدى النيران دخان الكوشوك انا طالق عنان مشونة ومشوك انا عائد لأرضي انا خالع الشوك لو مش عارفين ايش بيدك ما كانوش حشوك حنعود لو بعد عقود حنعود 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 لو بعد عقود حنعود حنعود لو بعد عقود حنعود 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 لو بعد عقود حنعود
So I remember watching that video for the first time, and it was actually during the Great Marches of Return. So just remembering it by watching it now just reminded me of sadness of what came with the Great March of Return, the thousands of Palestinian lives that were lost, and just the important message that was instilled within all of us as Palestinians within Gaza and around the world, that we will return. So over to you, MC Gaza. I think your mic is muted.
Yes. Hello, everybody. First of all, when I got invited to do this speech, I was thinking, what should I say? Or I must prepare something to say. I must prepare like a speech with a good words. Then why should I prepare it? I'm living it. My name is Ibrahim Ghunaim, also known as MC Gaza. I do rap music since 2005. I'm doing a lot of things next to rap. I love to be a rapper because it's remind me of who I am. I like to be a rapper because when I started doing rap, when I wrote my first lyrics and my first song, I was like 13 years old. And the funny thing is, that song was called Zionism. You know, I was 13 years old. Like, I'm living it since the first Algeria, Matar, who was fighting in Lebanon with the Palestinian revolution there. I lived after in Lebanon, then we moved to Egypt, then to Gaza. I lived in Gaza from 1998 to like 2018. I lived the Intifada, Al-Aqsa Intifada. I lived the big division between Fatah and Hamas, and that great mistake in our history. I lived 3 wars, 14 years of siege. I lived the Great Return March, and I was going there as someone, just anyone of the people who was going there. But that day I lost my friend, so I wrote that song at the same time. I wasn't preparing it before, like it was like a freestyle. I recorded it after I recorded that song after I took the video. Actually, I have a lot of things to say. I think it's gonna be bad things about even about Palestinians. Like, it's the first time I can see that we are all together saying the same thing. It's the first time to see like this move, which never done before. I would like to thank everyone who's working and managing this move, say that we are returning to our lands, that we are returning to Safad, to Jerusalem, everywhere in Palestine, all Palestine. Yeah, if you have any question, I think I've done here.
Okay, thank you. I just have one question.
Yes.
What made you start rapping? Like, what was the trigger that got you into rapping in the first place?
I was thinking it's something fun, you know. It's something like it's a modern thing that days, like all the young guys was loving, were loving this, were love to do this kind of music. Now maybe I regret because I started it, because I can't stop it now. Because if I stop producing music, who will? Like I'm producing music since 2005, while just some people around are producing this type of music I was fighting in Gaza. I was fighting in Tunisia, in Malaysia, in Japan. I don't think I'm doing music because I'm fighting here and I'm fighting everywhere just for Palestine and return to our lands, the whole Palestine, the whole Palestine.
Okay, thank you, MC Gaza. Just to
Yeah.
remind everyone watching, if you have any questions that you would like MC Gaza to answer or any of the other speakers that have spoken, then please leave your questions in the comment section on Facebook and on YouTube. So last but not least, our final speaker is Isra. Isra was born and raised in Vienna, Austria. She is Palestinian, Lebanese, and Tunisian. Her love for her Palestinian heritage was always present, which massively inspired and influenced her to become an artist. Isra is a singer, painter, and activist, playing a pivotal part of Palestinian youth activist organizations in Austria. Please welcome Isra. Oh, I love your background, Isra.
Thank you. I tried. First of all, before I start with introducing myself and talking, I would like to start with a poem I wrote years ago, but I never really had the chance to show it to anyone. I think it would really fit as a start. And I call this poem Boom, because you're a terrorist. A Palestinian seen as a terrorist, but what if I tell you this? Listen to it when it suddenly hits. It goes boom. Boom is all what we hear, and boom is the sound we wake up to every freaking morning. Boom is the sound while a child is crying, Yamma, what am I gonna do? Baba is in heaven, and now you're leaving too? Kids are left orphans because of this. They pray the next boom will hopefully not miss. It goes boom, and every time a 10 years old is shot or borders filled with soldiers. Boom is small, they say, but how small can a boom really be when there's a nation without liberation that needs to be freed, and still everyone looks away because, you know, life is too hard. Let's not talk about a nation because it's more likely like a dangerous operation. There's no communication, even though we see them have long conversations. They talk about peace, about freedom of speech, but in fact, it's only a bloody action where the United Nations, the United States, and the Arab leaders pretend to talk about humanity, equality, and all these non-existing rights. You can shove them up, you know what? A small boom, they say. How pathetic. A boom that is filled with hate, but still we are seeing the monsters. Insane. We're living in a world where it's okay to shoot. What about the kids that sit around wishing they'd be labeled something other than a terrorist? Tell me, what? Dreams evaporate in smoke every time a boom hits the ground, and blood is all over the faces, and all these empty, sad spaces, people agonizing in pain. They suffer, they fall, and when necessary, they even have to crawl. We look away, everyone looks away, because we say it's not worth our time. Life is already hard enough. But you know what? When we reach life, boom, Palestine is hit again, and no more time. But a small boom, they say, and I say it one more time. How small can a boom really be? It's the only space that is bulldozed, but it's not seen as a crime. But what about the thousands of innocent people that die because it's not worth your or my time? Innocent people that are victimized, and again I say, a small boom, they say. You can wipe out the nation that was meant to exist, but let's not forget the fact that they have to resist. But in order to exist, but still they're seen as the terrorists, and boom is all what they hear. Boom are all they see, and boom is still labeled, you know, that little kid is still not a terrorist. So yeah, I'm really happy to actually be part of this because it makes me proud. I'm honored to be part of this conference because I'm sorry, I'm so emotional right now. I'm trying to hold back my whatever, you know, but I'm actually very proud because I've always been dreaming of being part of a Palestinian connection, but worldwide, you know, like artists, because I've been singing my whole life, like since I've been a girl stuff, and it has been a bit of who I am and what I can do for my country, you know. And I've never been to Palestine, Palestine, I've never seen it. And that actually inspires me because I love a land that I've never been to. I was born in Europe, in Vienna. I'm 28 now. And I love that land because it's like life is a journey of searching for yourself. And that one thing was not granted. I can't really look for my whole self because I can't go to my land. I can't visit it. I can't see it. I can't be part of it. And all I see is people dying and falling and war. And hummus is Palestinian, not Israeli. Sorry, what are you talking about? I'm like, what is this? And the return of like the right of return is not only a mission, it's in my blood. It's like everyone wants to know his DNA, you know? And it's a DNA part that I will never see. And I don't accept that. I will fight until the last breath I have because it is my right. I want to know the trees and the olive trees my grandmother was talking about, Allah yarhamha. But she was talking about a beautiful smell, a nice house, like, you know, and I will probably never get to, because I don't know. Now we've been 72 years in a prison that, you know, to be like clear. And now I don't know how long I'm going to live. I might die tomorrow. I might die in 10 years. But I want to know that at least the time that I got, I want to be present for whatever I'm looking for, whatever I'm fighting for. Like seeing Palestine, being Palestinian, telling the world Palestine exists, ya zalami. You know? So, yeah. Yeah. I got a little song prepared, actually. I'm a singer also. Oh, you can't hear me.
Oh, no,
I can't hear you.
Oh, you can hear me.
Sorry, I didn't hear anything.
No, I don't know. I can't say both of the song. We would love to hear you.
Okay, so it's actually a freestyle. I prepared it as like I chose the word freedom, and let's see what comes out of it. I've been dreaming of a place where I can belong with no race. Freedom has been taken away. I've been dreaming of a place, but my freedom was taken away from me. My freedom was taken away from me. 72 years to be clear. But what do I do when I live in a world where it's okay to shoot, to go, to die, to flow, to crawl and see them go away? But my daddy used to say, don't you worry, little child, 'cause one day you'll be right. Molten heat. I will never forget, you know, it's like, it's part of us. But let's end it here, because again, thank you for letting me be part of this. This is amazing. Really, I'm really proud of what you're doing, and I'm looking forward for more.
No, thank you, Isra. Thank you. And we love your freestyle. Thank you. So this is the last chance for everyone watching. If you do have any final questions, then do put them in the comments below. Just to welcome back all the speakers back into the Q&A. So we're going to jump into some of the questions that you have been asked. So the first question is, let's start with Malak. The first question is, why is Palestinian art and culture so important to you, being a Palestinian artist?
Sorry, are you? Sorry, I didn't hear anything.
No, it's all right. I'm wondering.
No, it's right.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's bring in all the speakers back, please. So for all the speakers, if you could just unmute yourselves and put your camera on. The question is, hey Masoon, hi Isra, hi Marwan, hi MC Gaza, welcome back. The question is, I'm going to throw this out to everyone. Why is Palestinian art and culture so important to you? Whoever wants to jump on the gun first, feel free.
It's not.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Whoever wants to start first.
I can go first. First of all, I just want to piggyback what Marwan said. Look at the vibe in this room. الروح في هاي الغرفة. We need so much more of this uplifting and so much less of this tearing down. And also, like Isra, if that was actually a freestyle, you're a genius.
Yeah.
So I'm just really proud to be here with Malak and with MC Gaza. And I think there's three, and I'll be really quick to give everyone else a chance. One, it's because the art is good, right? I don't really care what message your art has if it sucks. There's so much incredible Palestinian art there, and it's not being given a platform. It's really not. People think that I exaggerate when I talk about the discrimination and bias that Palestinian artists face. But I know a lot of us, when we're submitting our work, we're like, do I put Jerusalem? Do I put like something less, controversial than Palestine? And of course, all of us are happy to be loud and proud about it. And because we are the people that blaze the trail for all the people that are coming after us that are frightened to be up front because they think of what the doors are going to close. So number one, there's such great art and we need to amplify it and give it a voice because it is our voice. Number two, as everybody said, we're literally told that we don't exist. Art is existence. Art is resistance. When we create, we not only honor and secure the past, but we also blaze the trail for the future. And for me, I just love doing stand-up comedy in Arabic because I grew up before Facebook, before TVs. I would sit with my, ammati, khalati, sittati, and we would sit and they would do tatriz and they would do stand-up comedy. They didn't know it was comedy, but they'd be like, yee, shufti al-arus, zay al-michinsa. And so like that oral history and that oral culture is so important in keeping alive a history that an entire people are trying to erase.
I couldn't agree more. I think especially in a time where, for example, Israel is just absolutely appropriating every single element and aspect of Palestinian culture. One of the most important things to do and a form of resistance is to continue creating Palestinian embroidery, continue singing Palestinian folk songs, Meltini, and all these. Do you know what I mean? Like, just really make sure that our culture is constantly alive and thriving. And yeah, and also just one more thing to add on to your point. I know a few people personally who are artists, who are singers, and when they were first starting out, they found it challenging to hold on to their Palestinian identity and to try to, let's say, elevate or go up the music ladder because they had producers and people telling them, okay, if anyone asks, just say you're from the Middle East. If anyone asks, just say you're Jordanian, like not to say they're Palestinian, which is absolutely insanity. It's just insane. I mean, what other nationality is that happening to? So the next question.
Hey, just hop in quickly. I had a producer ask me if I could be a vague Arab. And I was like, what is a vague Arab? Sudani, Lebanese, like it's real.
Wow, that's crazy. Oh my gosh. Does anyone else want to answer that question? So why is Palestinian art and culture important to you, Malak? I actually directed it to you in the beginning.
Of course. I really think that art is a very wide and international language. And I would say it brings people together. In the Gaza Strip, as it's a sieged place, I do think that Gazans feel like they are marginalized and really abandoned by the world. So I believe when you do a piece of art that people can connect to, when it's a humanitarian subject, for example, motherhood, and you tell the story of a mother losing her child, for example, it helps people, especially mothers. They can imagine how much this painting influenced them and how much they can relate to it and how much how terrible it could be if they lose the child the same way that Palestinian women lose their children. So I believe it doesn't only address people politically, but it also makes them feel, which is an important way for making a change. Because once something triggers you very hardly, and it triggers a feeling inside you, it makes you really think and reconsider and question yourself, and it questions your ideas and belief. I mean, if art was not important, it would not have been censored by Facebook, by Instagram, and even by the Israeli occupation itself. I would quote a story that happened with Sliman Mansour. He's one of the most known Palestinian artists. Late in 90s, he made his solo exhibition in Jerusalem. And 6 hours after the opening, it was completely shut by the Israeli ministry. And it was closed without any reason, and artwork were stolen. And he was told to not paint any artwork that has the four colors of the Palestinian flags, Palestinian flag. So you could imagine how much art can be threatening, because as Masoon said, art is existence and also resistance. And so this is what I think. Our culture is very beautiful, and highlighting it in our life and highlighting the beauty of it's really meaningful, and it gives us this beautiful feelings of existence, because we as Palestinians, we have this incomplete joy that we do not have an independent country. We do not have the human rights that other people in the world enjoy. So it brings us together, and it really connects us to other people.
Me now.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, for me, like we all gonna die. Like nobody gonna live like for 200 or 300 years. But music will. So when we do our arts, we are doing history for the next generations and for the future generations, so they know the truth about what's happening here, what's happening in Palestine, what's happening the real thing. Like after 200 years, nobody will know about us if we keep like this, if we keep shutting our mouth, if we keep never move just to our we are just working for ourselves actually, the Palestinians. Anybody, if any one of you like anyone talking about Palestine, just Palestine since like 50 years, just tell me. We all just caring about ourselves and what we can do from Palestine, not for Palestine. So I think when we do music, when we do our art, we are helping Palestine get resist. We are helping Palestine keep like in the minds of the future generations. And this is why I'm doing my music now. Even the painters, like the most popular painters, wasn't like the people wasn't supporting them in their times. But now they are buying their paintings for millions. This is why we are doing arts. That's it.
Thank you. Just wanted to ask Marwan and Isra, direct the next question towards both of you. So the question that we've been asked online a lot is, how can people mobilize for Palestine? How can they be more proactive in supporting Palestinian human rights, in fighting the Palestinian fight? What ways would you suggest our online audience take up?
If I might start. Actually, I would first start with us. I mean, this is a great start, like being part of the Resisting to Return week. I think we should start with us first, like that we connect, build up this great work, and then people have to listen. That's all they gotta do, you know? Listen and read and get your facts right. I'm not talking about anything that we, you know, like, I forgot the word. Yeah, I can't think of the word. But anyways, it's something that we, I'm sorry, Marwan, take over. Too emotional. يعني خلاص سكرنا.
No worries, no worries. Marwan, are you there?
So yeah.
Okay, we'll just jump to the.
Marwan is frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Zionists got him.
Woke him up.
Okay, no worries. We'll go to the next question. When he comes back, we'll jump back to that question. So another question that we got from the online audience is, why is the Palestinian right of return so important to you? Why is the right of return so important to you as a Palestinian? So we'll start with Masoon.
The right of return is important to me because it's a human right. Therefore, we have an equal right to return to the land that we were forcibly removed from. And that also goes for the indigenous people in Australia, in the United States. I mean, I'm sitting right now on the land of the Lenape Ramapo Native Americans. This is also stolen land. And I would much prefer the ability to go back. Now, this might be controversial, but in my opinion, the right to return does not mean the right to displace other people violently. I believe that we must deal with the fact that there is a huge millions of people population living there, and that we have to have equal rights to go back, to not have Israel control us being able to go to Palestine or not, to be able to be compensated if we choose for the villages that were destroyed and stolen from us forever, and that no Palestinian leader has the right to give away our right of return. I was married to a refugee for a decade. The one thing that he brought to America, the one thing, because I joke on stage, he had no stuff. The one thing that he brought with him was the key to his grandparents' house in Deir Aban. I understand that the myth of going back to places that no longer exist needs to be adjusted, but we have a right to live in that land. We have a right to compensation if we choose it. And giving up that right is seceding our human right as indigenous people. And again, I talk about solidarity. Please also always stand in solidarity of the people that we displaced in our forced diaspora.
Thank you. I think what you mentioned there, the intersectional struggle with Native and Indigenous people everywhere, from the Aboriginal people, Palestinian people, that the intersectional solidarity between us is so important. And also, when we're talking about the right of return, it's just an important point that when Israel destroyed over 530 Palestinian villages, they destroyed them and created green spaces. They created parks, this notion of greenwashing. So the space is very much available for, let's say, 7.2 Palestinian refugees. They all choose to return. The space is available. There'll be no kind of, there shouldn't be, but of course there doesn't have to be any kind of violent expulsion of the pre-existing people there, because there is that space available.
And just to piggyback that and to remind everybody, you know, my right to return to Deir Aban, my village that still exists, is 100% controlled by the Israeli army. They decide if I can enter or if not. There's no way for me to enter Palestine without Israel saying, okay, even though I'm a United States citizen and unfortunately my tax dollars are killing my people, I still have to have their permission. So that's part of the return, is the fact that so many Palestinians can't go back, or people like me are constantly rolling the dice and just saying, inshallah, inshallah, inshallah.
Yeah, exactly. When and where we do have the ability to one day return to Palestine, it should be completely with our own freedom, our own choice. We should be able to return where there is no occupation, there is no siege on Gaza, and there is no Israeli apartheid. Just before Marwan left, well, we had an issue with the connection. We wanted to pose the question to you: how can people at home, people watching right now, how can they mobilize for Palestine? How can they support Palestinian human rights and mobilize for the right of return?
So this is for me, yeah?
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I love all these answers. I think, you know, I really, when I talk, I like to talk to the younger generation. Not that I, you know, want to alienate anyone, but I really, really believe in the power of social media. Although there are a lot of things that are wrong with the business model and the way that, you know, they literally sell your attention. I think that technology is not evil inherently. You know, it's controlled by a small group of white men in Silicon Valley, and to be honest, it can be changed. And I think I always say this: imagine Nelson Mandela had TikTok. Like, imagine Nelson Mandela was able to project his message before he went to jail to 1 million people. I think last month, one of my videos got 1 million views on TikTok, which is to me just an insane concept. You know, the fact that 1 million people watched my video is just insane to me. And so I always talk about the power of social media, especially for Palestinians, to reach these new audiences, because we can talk to people that agree with us as much as we want and high five each other and say yes. So, and it's important, but we have to start reaching these people that actually matter, you know. And I think that social media, especially for us as a younger generation, is such a powerful tool. It is such a powerful tool. And like MC Ghazza said, our music and these videos that we create and the art that we create will live on past us, and we can create a legacy for ourselves. And just the second part of your question, how do we, I cannot personally speak for anyone living in Palestine because I do not live there. But as a diaspora, I know that we can do something, because we haven't done, I mean, to be honest, it's outrageous. Just the amount of, for example, you know, I'll use the example of DJ Khaled. This man has so much power. It's insane. He is so powerful, and he doesn't, it's sad. You know, I don't like to hate, because as I was saying, I'm very for uplifting Palestinians, but I think it's just very sad to see him not using his platform, for example. I think that so much could be done through that social media platform that he has. And that's why, you know, I'm doing what I'm doing, because I want to be bigger than DJ Khaled. And I want to be in that position where I can influence people and be, you know, Palestinian at the same time, and be talking about these issues and not restricting myself and not saying I'm Arab and not saying, no, أنا فلسطيني وراح أحكي عن الموضوع, you know, like we're not going to pretend like this and this and that. And I mean, that's why I'm talking about Drake, because if Palestine can pop out a Drake, that can help us a lot, you know. So, yeah.
Can I jump in there?
Sure.
Beyonce. We don't need a Drake. We need a Beyonce. A gender, best Miss Drake. No, just a really quick thing about how to get the message out. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. I understand that the word occupation has been used for 70 years. It sucks. It doesn't relay a message. Speak in terms that the audience, like Marwan said, you're not talking to people who understand. You're talking to people who have been fed the narrative that we left voluntarily, that we didn't exist. We wandered in from Saudi Arabia. We're terrorists. We're, you know, cousin loving, which we are, and it's shameful and we need to stop. But use terms people can understand. So in America, I talk about supremacy. I talk about how if someone is born in Bethlehem and they're Christian, they have no rights. If they're born in the Bethlehem area and they're Jewish, they have full access to anywhere, including our lives. So I come and meet people in the conversation that they need to have. So if that means like they've never even heard of Palestine, start with Jesus. Be like, you know where Jesus was born? Okay, there are a bunch of people there, and then a bunch of people came in and shoved us out. And have a conversation using basic terms. Like right of return means to people that they can return a gift they hated. It means nothing to them. So you have to talk about, like, I can't visit my grandparents' grave. I want to go back to visit my father. You know, that's what the right of return has to mean. So when you're relaying your messages, find a way that it's accessible to someone with a second grade education, because that is the average mentality.
Yeah, I agree. It's very important to break it down into terms that you understand everywhere. Just a final question before we wrap up today. Feel free to jump in, whoever the answer comes to first. But if, as Palestinians, as Palestinian refugees, if we were granted the right of return tomorrow, what would that look like, and what would that mean to you? Can we start with Malak? I think you're on mute.
Can you ask the question again? It didn't.
Sure. So if we were granted the right to return tomorrow as Palestinians, as Palestinian refugees, the people we know as Palestinian refugees, what would that look like and what would that mean to you?
Well, I will get a little bit personal here. I'm tired of being refugee. I'm tired of not belonging somewhere. In Gaza, I'm looked at as refugee because I'm from a village that is completely occupied by the Israelis. And in Istanbul here, I'm looked at as just outsider who's here to take the opportunities and to take the place with like there's a lot of stereotypes about people, Arabs living in Turkey. And in the US, there is certain stereotype. I just miss the feeling of being home and not feeling like I'm a burden on a place or I'm not looked at as an equal citizen with an equal human rights. I think that returning to home is like fulfilling the dreams of my grandparents, who for the last breath they dreamed of returning. And every day I remember very well how they spoke about their home, how beautiful life there, what like back at their village. And so it's like it's a huge thing for Palestinians to return. And I do believe that we live in a time where nobody should be a refugee. Everyone should be living in a home, with safety, with full human rights. So it's just as simple as not having to be a refugee. Mhm.
Can we jump to MC Gaza, please, with your answer to the question?
For me, maybe if we have like a right to return to our lands tomorrow, I will not. Actually, we must like find a solution about what's happening there between us first. We must be all together before thinking about returning to our lands. We must like finding Masoon said we must have another leaders to lead us return, like even to return to like to Jahannam. We need another leaders to lead us. Like everywhere I was in, they were treating me like not like a Palestinian. And oh no, I'm sorry about Palestine and this thing. They was telling me that you are who sold your country. You are you have a problem between each other, so find a solution about that, then talk to us, then ask us to move for Palestine, move for your country before you ask us to move for it. One time somebody asked me to collect a signatures of an artist, so say I'm ايش يعني مقاطعة؟
To boycott.
Say I'm boycotting Israel. I was contacting more than 200 Palestinian artists, and do you know how many of them give me their signatures just because I'm their friend? Just two of the 200. This is why I'm telling you that we are just working for ourselves, not for Palestine. This is why I'm staying. I'm still doing my rap music in the same way which I started with. I'm speaking about Palestine, while I'm very sure that I will not even success in my whole life. I'm doing rap music since 15 years, while my students, which they were around the whole Arab world, now are more famous than me, and now they have millions of views. and I'm still doing that while I'm knowing that social media is controlled by who's controlling us. This is why the translation of resisting like this, مواهب.
Yeah. Thank you. And just to expand more on your point as well, what can also be said is that what we need more of is more artists and more people like all of the speakers I'm joined with today, who are so proudly, unapologetically Palestinian. And that's why we actually wanted to speak with all of you. It's because you do obviously possess just that spirit of being unapologetically Palestinian. Just to throw the final question to Isra and Masoon, what would the right of return look like to you? Yeah, go for it.
Isra, you go first, and when you start crying, I'll start.
I actually agree with MC Gaza because I think we need to connect and build up the leaders that are gonna take us back. Because returning now is like I'm returning to a place which is empty and people are hurt, and so they need us who are living actually in a stable land. Or I mean, I was born in Vienna and somehow I'm part Austrian. By the way, I'm half Tunisian as well and Lebanese. But still, my love to Palestine is that strong. I want to return, but I want to return strong, and I can build up and like أزرع الزيتونة with my own hand, together. But going back now is too, as MC Gaza said, it's too early. We need to build up. We need to educate ourselves. We need to show the people and go back with like I don't want to say army, but like somehow like full with inspiration and power and creativity, because that's I think that's the new way, and the social media will help us with that. And yeah, inshallah, we will return.
Inshallah. So what the right of return is actually going to look like is a hafla. There's going to be mensa. There's going to be hummus, and the hummus is not going to be chocolate. There's going to be debka, but there's also going to be hez. There's going to be shurub, because there's Christians and Muslims who pretend to not drink on social media, but actually do. There's going to be hub, because there's always hub when there is harriya. And it's going to be a hafla. If you don't dream it, you can't achieve it. I know that we are all feeling really defeated right now, but if we don't keep the hope, if we don't keep the vision, if we don't know what we're fighting for and what we're going back to, we will never be able to achieve it. So I'm 100% with you. Like Zahkan, it's kal'atit, al-Arab jarab haram alayna wa alayna al-haram. But we, the Palestinian people, must fight non-violently for ourselves and dream the big dream. It's gonna be lit.
Can I add one thing, please? I love what Masoon and Isra and MC said. It's emotional and very powerful. But I also have to note something, that I believe our leadership will not guide us to liberation, no matter how perfect they are. Because at the end, Israel is, we're speaking about a colonial settlement, about an occupation. And they are the one taking the decision. And we are Palestinians. We do not have the proper representation and the proper hand to take the decisions for ourselves. So I do think that it's time to blame the occupation, because it's an apartheid state. While I do believe in the corruption of our leader, it's still, if the occupation is gone, we will return. It's not really the leadership. Much in
I know we have to wrap up, but one of the best analogies I've ever heard is Israel is the jail and the Sultan are the wardens. So never ever forget that absolutely the number one thing is that their knee is on our necks, and we need Israel to take their knees off of our necks, and we need leaders that will help at least shove them in the stomach. But
Exactly.
I couldn't agree more. Just to wrap up, I just want to say thank you to our incredible speakers. So thank you, Isra. Thank you, MC Gaza. Thank you, Masoon. Thank you, Marwan. Thank you, Malak. Thank you for all joining us. And just want to say a big thank you to everyone tuning in and watching online. And just a final reminder to sign the My Return campaign, which is www.myreturn.net. It literally takes 1 minute. And to donate to UNRWA, which is donate.unrwa.org. And also tune in for the rest of Return Week. We have 2 incredible events still lined up. Tomorrow we are joined with Dr. Salman Abu Sitta, who will be presenting the event entitled Envision to the Right of Return. And he will be presenting his practical plan on how practical it is to implement the right of return for over 7 million Palestinian refugees. That will be tomorrow, 5 p.m. GMT, same place that you're watching now. And then on Friday, we have our closing panel. Also tune in for that. So thank you and join us tomorrow.
If the petition letter being sent to the United Nations in order to solidify the right of return for the Palestinian refugees represents you, this is your chance to add your signature and make your voice heard. Enter the website at www.myreturn.net. Enter your details, your name, email, and the town of origin from which you or your family were exiled. Fill in the relevant fields to secure your data, then sign in the box. You have only completed half of the steps. To fully complete the form, you must log on to your email and open the email from the campaign. If you cannot find the email, check your spam folder. Click on Verify to activate your signature. Congratulations! Your participation in the petition has now been confirmed. Return. My right. My decision.
Dreaming we could make a living. We may call it home, but it isn't. Living a life full of hate. Don't you talk about forgiving. Quicksand on the beach, but still you got children playing by the sea. The language different, so they gone now. Always wishing it was me. Late nights in the trauma, eating away at my soul. Feeling guilty that I'm not there. Mama, I wanna go home. 4 Giottos on a drop top. We ain't got nowhere to go. IDs at the checkpoints, just so we know we below. Come take a trip to Jerusalem. You ain't see the people, they moving them. Reason they hate me, cause I'm always true with them. This shit got nothing to do with them. Used to have so many friends, now I'm losing them. I don't really give a fuck, cause I'm through with them. I'm messing real ones that gave me the tools to success, and you better believe it, I'm using them. Damn, yeah. This is all part of the plan. Gotta get rich and get back to the people who never gave up on staying in the land, yeah. Money is nothing to me, I just reinvest in my community, They bombing our cities and then they be saying it's all for security, Ce qui se passe autour, je m'en balèque, j'entends rien. Seul dans mon monde, mais c'est là que je me sens bien. Un seul endroit où je veux être, c'est Gaza. Je l'ai vu de loin, elle m'a dit reviens. Girl, I love a little crazy. pick you up in the Mercedes. I wanna take you to Jericho. Parents worry about it daily. Come take a trip to my city. The bullets be flying all over the place, but you're safe just as long as you with me. Already know that somebody gon' kill me. Don't listen to media telling you stories, just take it directly from me. More than a century since we've been free. Just come to my city and see for yourself how they live. 2020, they ain't with the vision. We gon' bring them together, and I don't really give a fuck if you Muslim or Christian. No time for division. My people in Gaza, Yafa and Janine. The people of now just hate for what Khalid. My people in Yemen, Syria and Lebanon. We got your back cause we know how it feels. Là c'est qu'un rêve, mais je sais que je reviendrai.